Yes, and hello from your Uncle Lucifer. I'm looking forward to continuing on with my talk on the possible hidden meanings in G.I. Gurdjieff's Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson. My next discussion will prepare the way for looking over G's reference to the year 1921, 1921 AD, which opens Beelzebub's epic proper there in the book's second chapter. The chapter opens with the passage that refers to the year 223 by objective time calculation and says that this was one and the same year, 1921. In an occult work where numbers are equated with one another, one must consider it deeply, and absent an adequate commentary on it, one's interpretation of a work must fall into serious question. Now, as most of our regular viewers know, the year 223, if it was to be taken as a Kabbalistic formulation, would be understood as more or less the time-space continuum, meaning the totality of all time-space continuums everywhere. The time-space continuum, or rather that which contains said continuum and is presented as being one and the same with whatever the year 1921 might be taken to represent in that sort of context. Of course, any allusion this direct, numbers as numbers, plain and simple, is easy enough to spot at first glance for anybody with the right background. So I invite our viewers to jump ahead and come up with their own thoughts on the matter before I do a series of videos on the subject. But here and now I must add to the sentiment already expressed in our Declaration of Independence video, meaning our complete independence from Gurdjieffians. So let me emphasize that on its face, Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson becomes just about the most boring and frustrating ramble ever committed to print. But as a workbook, it can serve as a kind of multi-dimensional, interactive, meditative, virtual reality game. One meant to smash one icon after another in a psychic cavalcade that would be maddening if one were to fail to grasp that it is, after all, a game. And please understand that with the advent of our Declaration of Independence, we have affirmed what should have been apparent from the beginning: our complete and total autonomy from Gurdjieffian fundamentalism. The level of condescension from this corner has been a real surprise, so much so that we no longer intend any sort of outreach to this persuasion. The Lucifer series is occult Wicca. All occult works of interest to Neil Fox will be co-opted into this framework, or rather the groundwork for doing such a thing will be laid out in our videos. This certainly includes the opening chapters of Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson and all the unknown words therein, enough to get future generations started. But the idea that it will be an entirely uncritical appropriation is a bit much at this point. In the beginning, we were happy to sidestep the negatives, but no more. Taken on its face, there is actually quite a lot to criticize in Gurdjieff. G's frankly patriarchal, grin-and-bear-it old-school spirituality, his occasional chauvinism, his attitude toward women and gays, his attack on Kundalini meditation, his sometimes factually unfounded remarks on Buddhism, his absurd assertion that the dervishes reflect real Islam, when in fact the Quran plainly belongs to Muslim fundamentalists of the Sunni persuasion. This, together with his pretensions to a totally objective morality, so-called. No, my friends, the Lucifer series is its own thing and always has been. Now, is there anything to the known teachings of Gurdjieff that the Lucifer series stands by? Yes, actually quite a bit as far as the gist goes, if one takes G's mangling of the East as a polemic and leaves death an open question. A polemic, of course, is just making an extreme case for something to drive home a point. When G was dismissing Buddhism, he was attacking monasticism as an end unto itself. Just as when he was attacking Kundalini, he basically had theosophy in mind. But it's all a very broad brush. Actually, the Naqshbandi order of the Sufis seem to have co-opted their own sort of Kundalini, to which G was no doubt privy. So honestly, it is much about nothing on that score, except to say that G's approach to the energy is as convoluted and strange as anything else about his manner of teaching. So I must recommend that people disregard his ballyhoo on the subject and just go get instruction in Kundalini. The same as they are better off reading a few books on nowing rather than struggling through Beelzebub's chapter on the relative understanding of time. Beelzebub is a massive series of polemics, motivational polemics, mixed with an almost monomaniacal distrust of the human imagination. It all goes too far, but every polemic has its point to make, and it is important for a student to grasp the point before one plays the game that the old man has in mind. Polemics is not philosophy any more than a carpenter's tools are carpentry. The tools are employed by the carpenter, but carpentry is what you do with the tools. So no, we do not take Beelzebub for sound philosophy. The philosophy itself must be experienced. It is always what lurks behind the polemics that is the true teaching. Unfortunately, this is why no one can agree on what the old man is really saying. So it becomes hopeless, you see. Everyone must go their own way, and if Gurdjieffians insist the Lucifer series is not Gurdjieffian, one can only say how astute of them to finally notice. Neil Fox is not a Gurdjieffian because there is no such thing. No such thing is possible. So he tinkers about with it to see what results he might yield from it, and only laughs when the old man tries to warn him off from influences that have only done our friend no end of good. Those other influences have equipped Fox to peel away at the unreadable, chaotic chore that is Beelzebub. It is like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy and her friends finally visit the wizard, who seems a large, imposing, disembodied head bellowing at them from on high. But soon enough, Dorothy's little dog Toto goes trotting to a booth where the real wizard, an old con man, manipulates the buttons that control the illusion that is the disembodied head. Drawing back the curtain, Toto reveals to everyone that it is all a scam, and yet the real wizard nonetheless has satisfying enough down-to-earth answers for everybody's quest, and everybody lives happily ever after. Now, on YouTube, I have heard from many an ego I might liken to Dorothy, wonderful child who just wants to find her way home. Of course, Fox is more often seen in the company of her older cousin Gladys, but that is neither here nor there. I have also encountered with deep and abiding sympathy the dim-witted scarecrow looking for his brains, and the well-meaning but emotionally dense Tin Man who would really like to stop running away from his feelings, and of course no end of cowardly lions out there, yes. Just as I have taken on with considerably less sympathy the Wicked Witch of the West and even the East, and most particularly the evil flying monkey creatures that can be such a nuisance. The same as I have bumped into an irritable talking tree here and there, given to throwing their own fruit at the videos. And certainly I am tripping over one munchkin after another, not a few of whom find the Lucifer series deeply suspect. What can I say? If you don't like our approach to the Great Oz, you can go watch some other videos. As for those of you who imagine you are the Great Oz, the fact that so many of you call yourselves Gurdjieffians speaks for itself.
Hey YouTube, for a lot of people, Beelzebub's tales to his grandson is a point of authority, okay? You can look up all the answers to everything on page 44 or 100 or 1012 or whatever. For me, like I say in the video, it's a polemic, and it's a combination polemic and workbook, okay? And as a workbook, I have found myself increasingly more in the position of an adversary. You know, it's like the old man is one player and I'm another player, and we're in this game of consciousness together. And it's something I want to describe in my videos as I get more and more into the esoteric meaning, as you know, insofar as I interpret it. And I could, you know, go up on a mountaintop and go through the entire book and all the numbers and letters and unknown words, and come down after 20 years of that and teach, okay? But you know what? I'm a guy making YouTube videos. I'm a work in progress, the same as you guys are. And the same basically as this book is. It actually is a work in progress, okay? And you complete this work of progress by participating in it.